Hey everybody, this is Jim Hopkinson. Welcome to my course on the salary negotiation mindset. You're probably here because you have a big interview or performance review coming up and you want some salary negotiation tips. Maybe you're really anxious about asking for a raise and you don't have a clue what to do. Or maybe you're meeting with HR tomorrow for a dream job and you just want some last-minute tips. Whatever the situation, don't worry, I'm here to help. Whenever I meet someone for the first time and I tell them I'm a writer and a speaker, they're like, oh, that's cool, what do you write about? But without fail, when I tell them that I teach people how to negotiate their salary so that they can earn more, they instantly perk up and want to know more. My qualifications? I'm the author of the book Salary Tutor, Learn the Salary Negotiation Secrets No One Ever Taught You. The book has been featured in Forbes, the Chicago Tribune, the New York Post, and many other publications. Additionally, I've written business and salary articles for the Wall Street Journal, Salary.com, Monster.com, ESPN, Wired, and my own blog, The Hopkinson Report. What I found in my experience is that people fall into three categories. Number one, they're looking to get a raise in their current job. Number two, they're looking to negotiate their salary for a new job. Or number three, they're a freelancer and they're constantly negotiating rates with clients. I've created a separate in-depth course on each of these topics, so make sure to check out the one that's right for you once you're finished here. But first, you have to have the right mindset, that attitude and extra edge to give you confidence going into a negotiation. My goal with this course is to inform and entertain. Listen, this isn't an old training program on DVD that got brought over to this new online learning system. I've created these courses from scratch, giving you everything you need to know and nothing you don't. In addition to receiving direct instruction, you'll get real-life scenarios that you've probably been in, and we'll follow characters such as Allison to walk you through your negotiation. But first, let me show you what's at stake if you're not prepared. Today, Allison is interviewing for her dream job. She's been looking for an opportunity like this for almost a year and has been preparing for weeks. She's prepared the perfect resume, practiced the basic interview questions.
My weakness is caring too much, working too hard, and cheesecake.
She's even prepared the perfect handshake.
It's great to meet you.
Unfortunately, there was one part of the interview that she didn't prepare for.
Well, it sounds like you're exactly the type of candidate we're looking for. What were you thinking in terms of salary?
Uh-oh. There's a couple ways this could play out.
That is an interesting question. 50,000? 55,000? No, don't tell me, don't. 60,000. 62. 3. 4. 75? Hang on 1 second, I'm gonna find out. What do you make? Whatever you want to pay me is just fine.
Whatever you want to pay me is just fine. That's obviously not the way you want to negotiate a top salary. Listen, at the end of this course, you should be able to say yes to the following two questions. Was I prepared, and did I do everything I could? What do I mean by that? Being prepared means going into that negotiation, having the right mindset, and having confidence. Clearly something Allison didn't have, as she didn't know how to answer those questions and was totally flustered. Doing everything you can means not leaving anything on the table. If they offer you that starting salary, do you make a counteroffer? If you don't quite get the salary you want, do you push it more and ask about what about vacation times? What about an increased title? The one word you're looking to avoid in all this is regret. Let's say you've been job searching for months and you finally get that offer. They look at you and they say, the job pays $50,000. Would that be okay for you? You're nervous in the moment. You're anxious. You're afraid of confrontation. So you panic and you say, sure, that would be great. Well, it feels good to get out of that awkward moment right as it's happening. Think about the next year you have that feeling of regret. What if I had counteroffered? Would I have gotten $55,000? Could I have pushed it to $60,000? What if the person sitting right next to me made $10,000 more for the same exact job just because they negotiated? Let's look at a scenario. Let me tell you the story about Kevin from London. He was a finance major and he ended up interviewing for this job on Wall Street in New York. So he goes through the process and he ends up getting the job. So he brings all his friends out, they go to a bar, they're having a few beers, and he's like, I've got great news. I got the job. I'm moving to New York City. There's cheers all around. Everyone's really excited for him. And then the question comes out. He's like, listen, I got the offer. Do you think I should negotiate? And most of his friends are like, no, 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 don't negotiate. You don't want to blow the job. You're moving to New York City. You've got this amazing job. Why would you want to negotiate? Don't risk it. So he decides just to accept the job. There's cheers all around, and he goes off to New York. So fast forward a couple of months, he goes out for drinks with his new coworkers at work, people he had met at orientation. Maybe 2 drinks turn to 3 and then maybe 4. And what happens is the topic of salary comes up and he can't help but ask. He says, did you negotiate your salary? And it turns out that one of them did. And he made a lot more than Kevin. A lot more. $20,000 more. He was angry and depressed all at the same time. This is someone that was the same age, had the same title, the same skills. They literally started the same day in the same department. The one difference was that the other person had actively negotiated his salary. He learned a very painful but valuable lesson that day, a $20,000 lesson. Now listen, you might say, well, he can just maybe do well and work hard and get more raises, but the other person is going to do well and he's going to make more raises and he'll always be far behind because he didn't negotiate that salary at the outset. So to go back to our 2 goals, it's so important to be prepared and do everything you can. Don't make a $20,000 mistake. It's so crucial that you negotiate your salary when you have the chance. I'm not someone that has spent 20 years behind a desk working for HR. I don't run a multinational corporation, and I've never negotiated a treaty for the UN. But what I do have is some experience that you can probably identify with. When I was younger, I thought I was super cool and knew it all. I thought it was simple. The older you got, the more money you made. What I found out, of course, is that life isn't that simple. Yes, I've worked really hard, and I've been fortunate to help build a startup and have dream jobs working for ESPN and Wired. But I've also hit some bumps in the road. I've navigated through 2 recessions and 3 layoffs. I've taken a dream job 3,000 miles away from home, and I've spent way too much time sitting in a cubicle. As it turns out, my salary through my first 10 years or so looks something like this. What I've learned through both trial and error and a lot of research is that you have to take control of your career. Here's the new reality. The age of lifelong employment, and then at 65 you retire and you get a gold watch and a 401k and a pension plan. Those days are over. They're not coming back. Instead, we live in a gig economy where you're going to be forced to continually adapt and pick up new skills throughout your career. In fact, the Bureau of Labor Statistics says that up to 40% of people change jobs every single year. Additionally, surveys show that millennials don't plan on staying in any one job for more than 2 or 3 years, and they might even change jobs 7 times in their 20s alone. And finally, your professional life and your personal life are blending together. Nod your head if you've checked your work email while on vacation. I thought so. On the flip side, how many of you have a side hustle, a hobby or a passion project that you do on the side to make a little extra money that you hope one day will eclipse even what you're making in your full-time job? One thing is clear through all this disruption. Knowing your worth and learning key salary negotiation tactics is a skill that you can use throughout your career. So if salary negotiation is such an important skill, how come you don't know how to do it? Let's find out. As Robin Williams said to Matt Damon in the movie Good Will Hunting, it's not your fault, it's not your fault, it's not your fault. So if you don't know the first thing about how to negotiate your salary, don't worry, it's not your fault. No one teaches you this stuff. Your parents don't teach you.
Hi, Mom.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Have you been eating healthy?
Yes.
Have you been paying your bills on time and stuff?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. It's getting kind of tricky.
Have you negotiated your salary?
Many schools don't teach you.
Actually, I think I learned a lot about interviewing from my school. I'm definitely printing my resume on 24-pound granite-colored paper. Nobody prints their resumes on off-white anymore, please. And did you notice the font? Always go with Copperplate Gothic Light, not Bookman Old Style. Ew. Okay, and what else? Always show up on time, have a firm handshake, and thank them afterwards. I'm so glad they taught me that. I never would have thought of it myself.
It's taboo to talk about money with friends.
Wow, that sounds like a hot date.
Yeah, I can't believe I totally hooked up with my married therapist.
Oh my god. Oh, and I'm glad you're intestinal issues cleared up by then?
Yeah, hot date night could have become bathroom date night.
Oh,
Bath-
God, gross.
Yeah. Oh, I got this.
You sure?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You're so generous.
problem.
How much are they paying you down there anyway?
That's real personal, Allison.
I'm sorry.
And your boss certainly isn't going to tell you how to negotiate your salary.
And it's as simple as that.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
No problem.
While you're here, would you mind giving me some tips on how to effectively negotiate a higher salary?
You gotta be kidding me.
When I first started researching this, there seemed to be tons of information about interviewing and resumes, but nothing about salary negotiation. So I wondered, was it just me? So I went over to Google and I searched. Sure enough, lots of information about interviewing and resumes, not a lot about salary negotiation. So I went over to Amazon and looked at books. Far more books on interviewing and resumes, not so much on salary negotiation. Are people going to need these skills? Absolutely. In a poll of 700 employees, 86% said they were planning on pursuing new job opportunities in 2013. And if they get an offer, they're going to need to negotiate. And according to a LinkedIn survey of 2,000 professionals, 39% of Americans felt anxious or frightened about negotiation. I've heard all the excuses. What if I negotiate and then they take the job away from me? Or I don't like conflict. Or what if I don't want to be too pushy? What if they get angry at me? Or some just say, you know what, I just get so nervous and I don't know what to say. Because of that, many people just give up. One study showed that 20% of people never negotiate, and another 16% never make a counteroffer. And it's even harder for women. Sheryl Sandberg, the COO of Facebook and former SVP at Google, has an excellent TED Talk called Why We Need More Women Leaders. In it, she cites a study that says that 57% of men negotiate their salary for their first offer, while only 7% of women do the same. Another hiring manager at a tech firm found a similar disparity. Upon presenting a starting salary, 50 to 60% of women simply took that initial offer, whereas up to 90% of men immediately asked for more money. Here's the good news. Like many things, negotiation is a skill that you can learn, and once you've mastered some of the tips and techniques, you can use them over and over again throughout your career. Just the fact that you're watching this puts you so far ahead of the competition. As we've seen, many people get anxious around the topic of negotiation. I say you should get excited. Hey, maybe I'm weird, but when I was in college, I would see the same thing around taking an exam. I'd walk up and I'd see classmates and I'd say, are you ready for this test? And they'd be all negative, like, well, I guess so. I kind of studied, but I'm not sure. And I would be excited. I would be jumping around. I would get psyched up. I'm like, I'm going to ace this test. I am so prepared. I am ready. I am going to nail this test. That's not to say I did well every single time, but I really think having the right attitude going into it mattered. And while back then all that was at stake was your cultural studies midterm, not so important in the big picture, now with the performance review or a new job offer, there could be tens of thousands of dollars at stake. How can you not get fired up for that? All right, here are some more tips. Number 1, when interviewing, put yourself on equal footing. Listen, I know this is tough if you're desperate for a job, if you've been out of work for some time, or you're going for your dream job. Sometimes it seems like they've got all the control. They're the ones with the job, they're the ones with the money, and they're the ones firing these questions at you. However, it's a two-way street. You're making a commitment to them, you're going to be working there 40 or 50 hours a week, and you're going to help put money in their pocket to their bottom line. You should be interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. Number 2, don't get emotional. Whether you're negotiating for a raise or trying to get more vacation times, you're not begging, you're not demanding, you're not giving any ultimatums. This is a business transaction. Put forth a logical case based on research and your performance and prove your worth. Number 3, don't use self-defeating language. Like the college exam scenario I just talked about, you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot before you even get started. In her book, Knowing Your Value, Mika Brzezinski gives examples of self-defeating language when asking for a raise. You don't want to walk into your boss's office meekly and say things like,
Hey, I don't know if you're busy, but I don't know if this is possible, and I'm sorry if the timing is bad, but I don't know if there's room for this in the budget, but...
Not only does this kill your chances, but you've actually put words in their mouth as a way for them to say no. All they have to do is say, actually, this is a bad time, and we don't have room in the budget. Number 4, defeat them with data. In almost any case, information is going to be your greatest asset. There's no way around it. You're going to have to do your homework. Document all your accomplishments and be prepared to speak to them easily and confidently. Consult as many resources as possible to find out what the value is for someone with your skills. It might mean going out on another interview and getting a competitive offer. But the more research you do, the more confident you'll get, and the better your leverage will be. Let's take a look at things from the other side of the table, HR. Now, a lot of people might be intimidated going up against HR, and maybe rightly so. Look at their experience. They might be negotiating with people 10 times a week, every single week of the year, whereas you only negotiate a few times throughout your entire career. Here's one advantage you have, though. It's expensive to find and hire new people. In fact, one study showed that when you take into account things like the recruiting and hiring process, training costs, the loss of institutional knowledge, and the effect on morale of other employees, it costs $150,000 just to replace one worker with a base salary of $60K, making it a far better option to give you that 5 or 10% raise. Next, when hiring for a new position, employers almost always have a range and always leave themselves some wiggle room. Say they're hiring a new marketing manager and they've set a range of $50,000 to $60,000. Of course, they'd love to sign you at $50K, and if they offer you that and you accept it, that's fine. But they expect you to counteroffer. If you come back with $55,000, it's still within that range, and your goal is to get to the highest part of that range. Now, a lot of people are afraid that if you ask for more money, HR is going to snatch the job away and give it to the next guy. But what I've found is that if you wait till they offer you the job and you negotiate in a business-like manner, that rarely happens. Put yourself in their shoes and look at the process. They might see 1,000 resumes, narrow it down to 25 candidates. There's pressure to fill the job. They have to meet with all the managers, go through all the interviews, check your references, make a decision, decide that everyone wants you. 5 weeks has passed now, and finally they make an offer for $50,000. So you come back and confidently tell them, based on your research, for the value of someone with your skills on the marketplace, you were looking for something in the 55 to 60 range. What do you think their reaction is going to be? No way, forget it, bring in those 1,000 resumes, start the entire process over, I can't possibly give you $5,000. No, they're not going to be like that. That's a reasonable request. Do you really think they want to go through that entire process again? No. It's far more reasonable to give you that extra $5,000 over a year and make both of you happy. Once they make that offer, the power shifts to you. Here's how you have to look at this. Look how long the job search process takes. First, you're doing all this researching, you're going to these networking events, you're getting your resume out there, you go through all these interviews, and then finally, you get the offer and you get the job. And once you have the job, you might stay there for years, but only get 3% raises at your annual review. What this means is that 10-minute negotiation, that small window after you've been offered a job, could be one of the most important and profitable conversations you'll have for years. Prepare for it as such. Now, I might be a little bit extreme, but when I was interviewing for my dream jobs, I prepared for weeks. And after I learned some FBI hostage negotiation techniques to help with salary, I prepared for that 10-minute conversation around salary for 8 straight hours. But why not? In those 10 minutes, you could make $10,000 or more. What else have you spent 8 hours doing that's more important? Class that I taught, I did a survey, and it turned out that the average student spent less than an hour preparing for their salary negotiation. Now, look at it this way. This is a test, but you're preparing for a test where the right answers could be worth $10,000. $1,000, $1,000, $1,000, $1,000, $1,000. So how do you know when you've achieved a negotiation mindset? Well, I work with a lot of clients one-on-one, and I can tell you the exact moment. When I'm working with them, I'm telling them the information about what to say, and I can hear them repeating it back to me verbatim. They don't quite get it. It's almost as if they think I'm going to be in the room there with them.
That all sounds great. I just have one last question. What were you thinking about in terms of salary?
I was hoping for something in the $75,000 range.
I was hoping for something in the 75,000 range.
That seems a little bit high based on your qualifications.
Well, according to my research, for someone with my skills and experience... Thank you for your time.
The reality is, I'm not going to be in the room with you. But if you get the proper training, it's almost like a switch that gets flipped. As my clients do more research, practice more, and gain confidence, they stop simply repeating what I told them to say and put things in their own words, really believing what they have to say. And that's when they've achieved the proper mindset. But to get to that point, you have to invest a little in yourself, learn the necessary skills, and put in the time. But the results can be dramatic. The job search, 5 mindset tips. Hey everybody, this is Jim. Welcome to the bonus section on mindset tips. You know, searching for a job can be very stressful. If the loss of a job continues into an extended time of unemployment, not only does it take a toll on your bank account, but also on your self-esteem, your confidence, and your relationships. And a lot of it is about mindset and confidence, keeping those spirits up and being in the right mindset throughout the process. Like most people, over my lifetime, I've experienced job loss for myself, close family members, friends, and colleagues. Based on my experience, here are the pieces of advice that I usually give people, just simple pieces of advice to take away when they're facing a job search. First, 2 obvious pieces of advice. They sound so simple, and you can be, Jim, all right, that's obvious, it's so simple, but yet it's so true when you hear them. And it's applicable not only to just job searching, but life in general. So I'll share those with you. Then we'll talk about tapping into your network, the timing around the process of the job search, and then I'm going to leave you with one sentence, an actionable item that you should use at the end of every interview to keep you from stressing out. Let's get started. The first piece of advice I give is don't get too low when things look bad. Some weeks job searching can be awful. You send out a dozen resumes, you don't get a single response, you make it to the final round of an interview only to have the company give the job to someone else, you're watching every dollar, and then you find out your car needs costly repairs. It's like the world is out to get you. Conducting a job search is like riding a roller coaster, but without even being able to see when the peaks and valleys are approaching. One thing to keep in mind is you're not alone, especially in the most recent economy. Millions of people are going through this, so it's not just you. You have to go into it expecting starts and stops, expecting small victories and then some defeats, and just hoping for the best, but yet preparing for the worst. You're digging in here for the long run. On the flip side, for point number 2, don't get too high when things are going good. You know, some weeks when job searching are full of optimism. You apply to your dream job and get a response that they want to bring you in for an interview. You go to a networking event and connect with 3 different people that have job openings at their company that match your skills. You rocked your first interview with HR and they want you to come back the following week to meet with the rest of the staff. Everything is coming up roses. I'm not saying that you shouldn't celebrate small victories, you should, but you need to keep them in check. So for example, resist posting every win on Facebook and telling every single family member and connection about the process of your search right away. Although it feels good to talk about these wins, keep things in perspective to avoid feeling even worse if it doesn't work out. So keep putting together small wins that will ultimately lead to your goal of getting a new job, a raise, or a promotion. Suggestion number 3, lean on your network. And I mean this in 2 different ways. First of all, your business network. Surveys have shown that up to 80% of jobs are found through networking. Now, whether it's 60 or 70 or 80 or 90%, the percentage is so high that you should focus your job search efforts on that networking. Some people actually put aside a specific coffee and lunch fund so that they can take colleagues and mentors and do informational interviews and have that budgeted during their job search to network with people and go to these events. Find yourself at meetup groups, at events for other job seekers because it can be a lonely experience, but by surrounding yourself with people both in the same position as you looking for a job and then other people that have jobs, it's going to increase your chances of getting a new job or, networking for a new job. And then the second half is relying on your social network. These are your close friends, your family, that you can lean on for support when things aren't going well. And I also suggest kind of spreading it around. Of course, you might have a best friend or a spouse that you go to with the problems that you're having. But if you're constantly going to friends and kind of talking about what's going on in your search and how stressful it is, try to talk to a couple of different friends so you're not overwhelming any one person in your network, and kind of spread that and use your full social network for support. Piece of advice number 4, the amount of time to find and start a new job always takes longer than you think. How long does it take? Well, statistically speaking, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average time it took an unemployed worker to find a job in 2012 was 39 weeks, nearly 10 months. That's up 137% from the 16-week average a decade ago in 2002. Not only does the overall time spent to find the right job take forever, but even once you're on track to get hired, the actual process from the moment you have from the first interview until your first day of work can drag on for weeks. It can be a very long process. Let me give you an example. Let's say you finally have your first interview and it's on a Monday, April 1st at 2 p.m. You meet with HR and they like you, so you're passed along to 2 individual managers. The interview goes great. It seems like a perfect fit. You have excellent rapport with everyone. And by 4 o'clock, HR is showing you out the door. The primary thing you want to do is finish strong. Emphasize your enthusiasm about the position, bring up a topic that came up during your meetings, and conclude by commenting how one of your top skills is a perfect match for what they're looking for. The final thing most people ask while waiting for the elevator is the following question. What are the next steps in the process and when can I expect to hear back? A typical response from HR might be, well, we're really trying to fast track this, so you will definitely hear back from us in the next few days. You're thrilled with that response, you shake hands excitedly, and you head home. However, there's a follow-up question that I'm going to cover next that will save you some stress. Now, here's what the problem is. If you don't ask this question, you go home filled with excitement over the interview on Monday. And then on Tuesday, you talk to your friends and tell them how the interview went. And I might even hear something today. And then on Wednesday, you start checking your email and your phone and you're waiting for them to call back. And you start thinking, what did they say? A few days? Does that mean 2 days or 3 days? And then by Thursday, you're like, okay, they're definitely going to get back to me on Thursday. And then your significant other calls you in the afternoon. Did you hear yet? And then you run into your friend and they're like, did they find yet? Did you hear back? And you're like, well, you start to get stressed. Maybe they found someone else. Then you don't sleep well on Thursday night, but you're sure Friday is going to be the day. And then by Friday, still no word, and the hours start to tick by. You're thinking about calling them, but you're not sure. What do you think? Should I call them? Is that annoying? Well, they said they'd get back to me, so I guess I should wait. And then you start to stew a little bit. I can't believe they haven't gotten back to me yet. Maybe that isn't such a great place to work anyway. And the next thing you know, it's into the weekend. And now over the weekend, it really starts to bother you. You meet up with your friends, they're like, what happened with the interview? And you're like, I didn't hear back yet. And then Monday goes by, and then you're all stressed out. But in reality, here's probably what happened. HR spent the rest of the day Monday catching up, and they were going to talk about the person coming in, and maybe the other person they wanted to interview had to cancel. Instead of on Tuesday, they decided to come in on Thursday. And then when they went to talk to the hiring manager and get the group together on Friday, one of the guys was out of the office, so they pushed it to next week. And in reality, they were ready to get back to you, but now you've got this bitterness because you've got all this stress that you haven't heard back. So will this simple question remove all of the stress that one feels when they're doing a job search? No. But when you can find a very easy solution to a very common problem, every little bit helps. So here's my one little tip. The solution to this is ending that interview by saying the following thing. That sounds great. If I don't hear back from you by Friday afternoon, would it be okay if I followed up with you? So here's what this does. Remember, it was Monday and HR was like, we're trying to fast track this. You'll definitely hear back from us in the next couple of days. And you say, that sounds great, but if I don't hear back from you Friday, would it be okay if I followed up with you? And they're probably going to say something like, oh, sure, no problem at all. But you're really going to hear from us well before then. For the next few days, you're certainly hoping for a response and you might get one, but you're not anxious when you don't get one, because when Friday comes, you don't need to agonize on whether you'd be bothering them by checking in because they've already given you permission to do so. So all you do is on Friday afternoon, shoot them a quick email asking them if they have any progress to report on the hiring process and wish them a good weekend. In most cases, HR will respond quickly and apologize, letting you know what the schedule is. Here's the new schedule. I'm hoping to hear back on Tuesday, and you're free to enjoy your weekend. So again, it's not going to resolve all of your job search problems, but it's one little mindset trick that will help save you a little bit of stress. So to sum up, a job search can be exhausting and stressful, but hopefully it's ultimately rewarding. Make sure you keep an even keel going through the process, not getting too high when things look good, not getting too low when things aren't working out. Lean on your network for support. Expect that the process is going to get a little muddy at times, and make sure you have timely follow-up when you're working with HR. Thanks. I hope this course helped you achieve a negotiation mindset. Here's a quick recap. Number 1, negotiation is a crucial skill that everyone should master, yet it's rarely taught. Number 2, your 2 main goals will be to be prepared and do everything you can so that nothing is left on the table. Number 3, in the new economy, you may learn new skills and change jobs often, and each opportunity is a chance to negotiate. Number 4, job seekers, especially women, are often anxious about negotiation, but HR expects pushback and allows for it when making an offer. And number 5, you shouldn't be anxious to negotiate, you should be excited. By adapting a negotiation mindset, with proper training, you can view this as an opportunity to prove your worth, increase your salary, and get paid what you deserve. If you enjoyed this, check out my other courses, which take an in-depth look at each of these 3 topics. How to get a raise at your current job, negotiating salary for a new job, and negotiation for freelancers. Thanks again. I'm Jim Hopkinson, and this has been the Salary Negotiation Mindset.